Hello everybody, Clint Seeley here, coming to you today from out of retirement. I haven't recorded a video in the last 5 years. Been really busy, but thought it was time to return to digitizing and see how this goes. So I haven't really recorded videos on the version 8 of the Bernina software. And I know version 9 is out as well, thinking about upgrading to that, but thought there's probably a lot of y'all out there with V8, and I should probably not skip, and I should probably record a bunch of V8 videos before I move on to upgrading to V9. Let me know if you have V8 or if you have V9. I'm probably going to put a poll in the Digitizing group on Facebook. If you're watching this video on YouTube and you're not a member of our Bernina Digitizing software group on Facebook, I highly suggest you go do a search for it and join. We have 3,500 members currently. And during my hiatus, there has been still a lot of participation where the community has been supporting the community in the group, and I just think that's great. So as you can see, once you're in the group, I posted a I made a post. There's a poll there. A lot of y'all want the art canvas. You want videos concerning the art canvas, because I know I've looked around to see what's out there before I jump back in the water. And there are videos out there for the Digitizing and the Bernina software. Most of them spend most of their time in the embroidery canvas. And there's very little out there that actually teaches and spends a lot of time on the art canvas. So I'll make sure that I do that. I'm going to spend a lot of time showing you how to unleash the tools of the art canvas as well, which is the Corel Draw side of the program. But as we scroll down, you can see I've come up with a new monogram font that I thought would be very friendly for amateur digitizers, because that's really what we are. We're not professional digitizers. We are hobbyists. We are people that have a passion, and we've bought this software. You've gotten this software because you want to make your own stuff, or you want to import embroidery designs and maybe take them to the next level. So I wanted to develop a font that would be easy to bring into art canvas, do a few things in art canvas, do a few things in embroidery canvas, and you could really make something special and unique that's your own. So this is the font called Stencil Bloom, and it's a monogram style font that's in a stencil style, which is going to make it very easy for you to learn the tools and make something pretty. So all you have to do, this is free for y'all to use. You can just click the picture, right click on it, and hit Save As, and then that'll just download the picture to your computer. And then when we go back to the embroidery software, you'll be able to import that image and follow along the video tutorial. So just hit Save As, save it to your computer, and then when we import, we'll go back to that location and bring this file, this picture in, and we'll start doing the project. So I'm going to minimize my browser, and then I'm going to bring up the embroidery software. There we go. Okay. Open your embroidery software and then go over to the art canvas. So when you open the software, it brings you to this screen, which is the embroidery canvas. And then you see my little mouse clicker. Just go over and left click that art canvas, and it'll load the art canvas. So here we're looking at the art canvas. We have a new project started here. And if you hover over here, you can see that's the import. You can also do a Control-I. All right, so we're just going to click on the import, and then you're going to use your file manager there to, I've saved it in a folder. My location's going to be a little bit different than yours. I've created a folder called Stencil Bloom. Now, as I produce more of these images, I recommend when you download them, then organize them in their own folder. You can call it Stencil Bloom as well. I only have one in here so far, the A. I'll then make the B, the C, the D, and so on. But we're just learning, so you might not need an A for your own personal project, but we're learning. So we're going to select that guy, and then we're going to left click on the import. The program's then going to bring that import on the canvas, and we're going to left click to place it. And then a little shortcut on your keyboard is the P key, which will center it. And as you can see, this file comes in pretty large. You can see it's larger than the canvas itself, and you can see the dimensions right here. It's 17 inches wide. Go ahead and left click in that resize box, all right, the object size, and let's just make that 4 inches and hit enter, and it'll automatically resize to scale the height as well, because right here our ratios are locked. Now if you unlock, which I'm not telling you to do, if you unlock that guy, it won't do that. If you change the 4, everything will be skewed. So keep that guy locked, in the locked position. Now I'm going to zoom in here. Now the way that I do that on my mouse, I have a little wheel on my mouse, and as I move the wheel, I center my mouse cursor, and I move the wheel in, it zooms. As I move the wheel out, it unzooms. Yeah? So I just like to zoom it in to where I can see everything nice. Now we're going to use our trace bitmap function on the art canvas, and that's just right up here. Now for something basic like this, we can just do a line trace. So we would go to center line, or we would go to outline trace, and we could just go to line art, left click line art, and it's going to throw this notification box that your bitmap is really big. Just hit reduce bitmap, and the art canvas does its magic. It automatically guesses, and it does a pretty good job, because what we're doing now is we're taking a bitmap and we're turning it into a vector. Okay, it's going to make this a vector graphic, and I'm going to show you the difference in between a vector and a bitmap. Bitmaps are made of pixels. Vectors are not. All right, so everything looks good here. You can see where my detail is. You can see where my smoothing and my corner smoothness is. On our options, I have delete original image, remove background, automatically choose color. You can see right here. Let me look at the colors. Now in the colors, I have 3 different colors that it's picking up on. I only want 2, right? So I'm going to reduce to 2 here. And it's going to take all of those grayscale specks and turn them into black. So it should just give me 2 layers. Once I've done that, I'm going to hit OK. Now, as you can see, when I zoom in this time, as we zoom in, no matter how far we zoom in, you don't ever see the edges of this image pixelate. They stay straight and smooth, nice and clean. I'm going to zoom back out. Everything looks good here. Now, here's something I want to point out, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you when we're going to auto-digitize this just to see what it looks like from the program's best guess. Using the full magic and the full power of the program, it's going to do a really good guess and do a lot of the work for us, but it doesn't do all of the work for us. There's always some areas in your design, mainly here, like here, all right? You can see how this is a sharp edge. This might not auto-digitize out and look as clean as it could. So I'm going to zoom out. I'm just pointing this out because I already know it's not this one as well. You see that sharp edge, but we can fix that. But I don't want to fix it first without showing you what I'm talking about. So we can left click drag a little selection box. All right. And that selects everything right here. You can see in our object manager we have one group, but there's going to be 30 objects in that group. I'm just going to go ahead, once this guy's selected, left click on convert and see what the program does. You can see it does a really good job. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Let's zoom in on those potential problem areas and see what's happened here. That doesn't look bad. It actually doesn't look bad. Let's look at this guy down here. That one doesn't look bad as well. This one's not perfect. You see how this one could be a little bit smoother here? All right. So I'm going to left click on this guy. I'm going to hit the edit or the reshape. In embroidery canvas, it's called reshape. And it's going to show me all the nodes here. That's not bad, actually. We could delete some nodes and we could insert some curved nodes, because you can see these are all little yellow boxes, and so that's going to be a series of straight lines. It's going to run straight lines from node to node to node. There's always more nodes than we actually need, and sometimes straight nodes should be curved nodes. But let's see. Let's just go ahead and inspect a little bit more of the design to see if there's anything that we should be fixing in the art canvas, and then convert it again. Everything's looking pretty good. Now you can see here as we inspect and zoom in on this area, the stitch direction is a little wonky. We can fix that. All right. It looks nice, but it can look better, right? Stitch direction over here looks a little bit wonky, especially right here. I don't like that right there. This looks good. Looks better than I thought it would look. So, bravo to us. We just saved ourselves a little time. As long as these stitch directions can be fixed, we're good. Now, everything's black, and I don't like to play with stuff that just looks boring in black. So what I'm probably going to do is select everything and change it to a different color, something that looks a little more friendly. And I have my hoop displayed. You might want to hide the hoop. That's right here. You can left click and it'll hide the hoop. And then you can actually add a fabric to your background, so it gives you a more realistic view of what the embroidery would look like. But for right now, this looks pretty good. This looks pretty good. So let's just fix some stitch directions. Let's not even go back to the art canvas right now. I'll wait until pardon me, until we get to an actual part of the project where we really need to fix something. So, are you familiar with changing your stitch directions? Let's go down here. I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm not going to do the entire thing. I'm going to show you how to fix stitch directions, and then I'm going to let you fix all of your stitch directions. So, let's zoom in on this obvious area. And I'm going to click that object. You can see how that object is highlighted. And then I'm going to go to the edit, right? Now edit right here, when I click the little drop down menu in the edit, it has all of my available options. And this time, it gives me the option to remove stitch angles and add stitch angles. Sometimes the remove stitch angles is not given to you as an option to click. When it does give it to you, that's a good thing. I usually just hit remove stitch angles, right? And then I go hit add stitch angles, and now I can add all of the stitch angles that I want to this particular object. And I'm going to start down here, And remember, with stitch angles, you don't have to put a lot of them in. Only really where the stitch needs to change direction more than a few degrees, right? So here, I'm going to left click. I'm going to add my first stitch angle. And then I'm going to click over here. We're changing direction. There's another stitch angle. And you're doing it kind of like the runs in a ladder, right? Boom, boom. Just put a few stitches. And I'm going slower than I normally would because I know y'all are trying to follow along. So be patient with me. That looks good. That looks good. We're just going to add some stitch angles because we want our embroidery to be pretty. See if it'll let me put this one in. It did. Let me put that one in there. Let me see if it'll let me put this one in here. It did. Okay. It doesn't always let us do that. It's the embroidery, the program is being very nice to me today. And then once your stitches, all of your stitch directions have been placed, I like to zoom in so you can really see before you hit the enter button, you can see what it does. So I'm going to hit enter, and voila, we have nice and smooth. Now the leaf right up here, a little bit off, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to add stitch angles, and I'm going to tidy that up. Hit enter again. Boom. That looks great. All right. Doesn't that look good? I'll go back and left click the select. And we can see an immediate result of the work that we just completed. That looks nice. And see, you can clean this guy up. You can clean all of these up if you really feel like the stitch direction could be better. If the program has delivered to you a result that you're happy with, just let it be, okay? And if you make a mistake, remember the most powerful tool in the art canvas and the digitizing canvas is this tool right here, undo. All right, it wipes away all of your mistakes. Undo. You do something that doesn't look good, hit that undo. All right, so now the next one, let's do one more, maybe a few, okay? I'm in selection mode. I'm going to click this guy here, remove the stitch angles, and now we're going to add stitch angles. And I'll start down here at the bottom. See if the program continues to be nice today, which is awesome, if it is. I'm gonna nice. And then we'll continue on here. There's a direction change. Direction change, and maybe just a little bit right there. We're zoomed in. Let me get everything in the... All right, ready to hit enter. Enter. Oh, that looks so much better. Doesn't that look better? Okay. Looks much better. Now you can see the difference because this object pretty much matched this object, and now this object doesn't look quite as smooth. So let me select this guy. And see, on this one, there's the remove stitch angles is not highlighted. So we just have to do the best we can do with add stitch angles. And let's see what it lets us do. Let's hit enter. That's a little bit of an improvement right there. Very nice. It's looking very nice. And then the flower here, well, this leaf in particular, that's bugging me. So let's hit that one. Let's hit remove stitch angles. Let's hit add stitch angles. Boom. Like the rungs on a ladder. Hit enter. So much better. So much better. Okay. So you're digitizing. Okay. You're really being a digitizer. And then, of course, I don't know if you have, it all depends on what this is going on as well. Now, here's a few other things that I want to point out to you. This, this monogram, I'll leave you with this. This monogram is only 4 inches wide, 4 inches high, designed to fit in this hoop right here. If you're wanting to design or scale this to be bigger, which I'm gonna show you, to go in a much larger hoop, like a mega hoop, I think, or something like that, you're gonna have to make changes to the stitches themselves. Because let me tell you, these column stitches or satin stitches, they're called both. Like a professional digitizer would call this a column stitch. This is a satin stitch. All right. So this one in particular, I select this guy. If we make the embroidery twice the size, that jump stitch that the machine has to make this twice as wide, the sound of your machine's going to change. It's going to be making big jump stitches, and all of a sudden these jump stitches are not quite as tight. And they can pull on things, they can become unraveled, they can get hooked on things, and your embroidery, your monogram is not going to last on the fabric that you put it on. So one of the things that I like to do right here, I'll show you. Let's make this guy, all right, right now, it's 3.24 inches wide, and you can see about the same height. But if I drag this guy and make this guy much bigger, all of a sudden our column width, our satin stitch width, is probably not going to be suitable with a traditional satin stitch. Now you could do a fill stitch. I really don't like doing fill stitches in a situation like this if I don't have to, because it just doesn't look the same. It doesn't look great. We have to go in and select each one of these large column stitches, and you can see this satin stitch right here is selected, and if you right click on it, the settings will pop up. The settings for that satin stitch will pop up, and in a situation like this, we need to change this to a satin special, or also called a split satin stitch, which still looks nice. But what that tells the machine, what that tells the program, is if the satin stitch is too wide, in the areas where it's too wide, we are going to make that a split satin stitch so we don't run into all of those problems. It changes the way that it looks, but trust me, it still looks pretty nice. So I'm going to change this to a satin special, hit apply, and you can see this is still a satin stitch. It's just a split satin stitch. And you might even like the way that that looks. All right, I'm going to do that with all of them. And so as you make all of these split satin stitch in those problem areas where the column is just too wide, it adds a split satin effect, right? But then as you scale it smaller, it'll return on its own just to a satin stitch, or it should. All right, so let me go ahead and right click. It's good to do each one of these because then you're creating a muscle memory for yourself. And every time you use a tool and you use it multiple times over and over and over, it gets programmed into your memory banks, and you'll remember, oh, that needs to be a satin stitch, a split satin stitch. And it helps you remember each one of the tools and options that are available to you in this program. Okay, so I've made those split satin stitches. So when the embroidery is big, it'll automatically adjust and fix those things. So as I select this embroidery again, and I'm going to make this guy small once again. Yeah. Now you can see that split satin stitch effect was removed because it's not needed. Now in some spots, some areas, like down here, I'm not really liking, I don't know if it's really needed in this case, but the program has automatically done it. But what I can also do to this element, and I suggest you do that to all of your elements, still go through and fix all of those stitch angles just the way that you want. So I'm going to go ahead and do this element as well. I don't know if it'll let me get away with that. I don't know if I'm even doing the right thing here, but remember, you have this magic button called the undo button. Never be scared to take risks because of the power of the undo button. Yes? Yeah, I really like that. That's pretty good, right? That looks nice and clean. Nice and clean. So you can do all of your column stitches, satin stitches, okay? By changing, I always highly recommend, if you want your embroidery to look as good as possible, to change those stitch angles to take them to the next level. All right, so this looks pretty good. Now from here, depending on what you're going to put it on, what fabric type, you need to change your underlays for the particular type of fabric that you're going to put that on. I will probably record a video in the future. I have some old ones from V7 that you can find on my YouTube channel, and this should be exactly, as far as these features go, it should be exactly the same, where you go through and really start learning the differences between underlay and stitch density and things like that. I always recommend that you make sure, depending on what you're going to embroider this guy on, that you change all of those back end settings. These are things you really can't see, but they are vitally important to your embroidery. And I always recommend sending this to your machine and doing a test on a scrap piece of fabric. And I know y'all have shelves of scrap pieces of fabric, so that's what they're there for. Use them, and then you just get to play with your machine and embroider twice as long. Always grab a scrap piece of fabric, test it out. Are you happy with it? Yes, I'm happy with it. And then go for it. Make something pretty. All right. Well, that's my video for today. More to come. This is Clint Seeley. Thank you for watching.